Legal chaos.
Legal chaos.
Legal chaos.
Legal chaos.
Legal
Chaos. Legal
Chaos.
chaos.
It's legal chaos.
All right. This is episode 2 of Legal Chaos. I'm here with my law partner, Tony Abboud. We got Brandon here once again.
Hello.
Had our first episode a little bit week or so ago. Got a lot of great feedback. Keep it coming. Got a lot of good suggestions. So, you know, the idea here, we want to talk to you about law, chaos, how to maneuver through it, popular culture. You have suggestions, give us a call. Not call, but let us know. We got a lot of social media that you can reach out to and give us some ideas about what you'd like to hear about. But we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. You know, one of the things I wanted to bring up with Tony, I know that he's a guy I've been working with for a long time. He's got a great sense of humor. And knows when to take a joke. He knows when a joke is a joke. He knows when a joke isn't a joke. But the question, Tony, is when is a comedian who tells a joke in a comedy club, does he need to worry about becoming a defendant in a civil defamation case? Is that where we're going to right now?
You know, Nick, it's funny you mentioned that, and I believe you're talking about Larimore Johnson. And, you know, it's interesting because when I read this article, and he's being sued for $27 million. And I think back, I think it was the Grammys when Chris Rock made a joke, and we saw Will Smith just slap the heck out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like, wait a minute, comedians are there to loosen up life, right? To put a smile on your face. Now, I get it if things go a little bit further what they need to do, but you have to understand that's their profession.
So before you go, what's your understanding about what this comedian did?
Here's my understanding, and I pulled up the social media clip, and he's sitting there. He's a comedian, Larimore Johnson. He's a comedian, and he's part of this talk show, right? And these three guys are sitting there. They're talking about pop. It's a 2-hour episode, and they're just having a ball. They're talking, they're laughing. These guys are just laughing hysterically of everything this guy says. And then they bring up the Lion King. And I'm not going to imitate, but there's a Grammy-winning South African composer, and he was behind the film's opening Zulu vocals.
Yeah.
Right? And we all know the Lion King. We love the Lion King. I love the Lion King. It really is.
Brandon, do you want to do it?
Do you want? Let's.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't want to be rude to any cultural unfamiliar.
You've just become a defendant.
So here, what it means, and it's a beautiful language. It's a beautiful call, and it really means, all hail the king. We all bow in the presence of the king. It's supposed to give homage to the Lion King, right?
Yep.
So this comedian, he's on this show, and he's like, well, you know what that really means? And they're talking about him. He speaks the language. He says, in his own translation, it means, look, there's a lion. Oh, my God. And the two guys on the show, they're laughing hysterically. They can't mean this. Like, yes, it means, look, lion. Oh, my God. So the composer, he's upset, right? That's his heart.
Not sure why.
That's his passion. That's his heart and soul. That's his little baby. So he sues him.
Yeah,
Nick,
get over it.
What do you think he sues him for?
Libel, defamation. I mean, Didn't we just go through this last week with Afro Man?
Yeah.
How did that end up?
What do you think the value of his suit is? Now it's all over the media these days. $27 million. Now, part of that is a joke, and part of that is to trying to get some attention to say, well, hey, look, you can poke fun at me, but don't poke fun at the Zulu calls.
Right.
So that to me, brings the big question, as you said, are comedians subject to liability? And absolutely not. I mean, do you guys remember the singer, comedian Weird Al Yankovic?
Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah.
And he would make a parody. He would get a pop culture song, he'd get a pop culture video, and they were hilarious, and everybody knew what that was.
Yep.
There was a movie, Ben's Tropical Thunder, and he's poking fun of actors. He's poking fun of directors. I mean, that's what it is. I think you're gonna have to have a sense of humor, and he doesn't have any monetary gains. It's not like he's creating T-shirts and slogans and going out on a limb to say, this is what this means, and the director got it wrong, and he's been duping everybody that loves The Lion King because nobody even knows what it means in the first. I didn't know what that meant in the first place until I read this article, All Hail the King Client. I just thought it was a beautiful vocal. It didn't matter to me.
Right.
It didn't change my perspective and point of view of that movie. It was still a beautiful composition. It was a great movie. You watch the movie and you listen to the composition, and it goes hand in hand. But at the end of the day, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? He's a comedian. And the way that the other two gentlemen reacted, they were laughing hysterically. So the comedian has done this job. He's put a smile on their face. He's put a smile on my face. I think this is hilarious. And in fact, I don't know if you know this. He's a stand-up comic, and he was doing a comedy show. He was served with the civil suit
On stage.
And he laughed about it. And he just laughed about it. So to me, you need humor. You need to lighten the load.
Yeah.
You need to soften the room.
Yeah.
We all need humor in our life, and God bless all the comedians who try to do that. They work very hard to try to put a smile on everybody's face, and they shouldn't have to face any persecution, especially from a movie that was made decades ago.
Yeah. Long time ago.
A long time ago. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares. Move on. It was hilarious. I'll stand by that.
Well, and apparently it was a joke that he's been telling for like 8 years. So that's going to be that probably even helps his case even more, right? If it's a continuous thing he's talked about.
Well, that's a good point, Brandon, because I think one of the reasons why we decided to do this podcast is because we always get a lot of questions from people, and we're criminal defense attorneys, and the majority of things that we do deal with our constitutional rights, and this is, although not a criminal case, it's a civil case, but it's directly impacting your First Amendment protections to free speech. And when I see a case like this, it bothers me a lot, because you and I, Tony, are big advocates for First Amendment. We're big advocates for all our constitutional rights. That's what we do every day. But, you got a lawyer that, and we don't do this type of work, but I remember from law school, would a reasonable person believe that this comedian is giving a fact? Is this a factual truth, or is it a joke?
Sure.
And that's the legal standard when it comes to this. And you don't have to be a lawyer to figure out the answer to that. And you don't have to be a lawyer to understand that this is a ridiculous claim. And yet a lawyer has done this, and they're going through this. I wonder if there's an ulterior motive here. Is this guy just now irrelevant? Is he trying to make news for himself? But it really is. It's when you go after First Amendment rights, you need to have really strong a really strong argument. It's not here. I don't see it here. I was looking back when I was thinking about this, and I'm a little bit older. I remember listening to some of the First Amendment cases that we would run into. Hustler magazine.
Oh yeah, Larry Flint.
Larry Flint, who actually I think had maybe his first store here in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, based out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, and he had in his magazine, little cartoons, little parody cartoons.
All right.
Jerry
Fowler.
Falwell.
Falwell.
Yeah, Jerry Falwell was
absolutely
at the time was a big TV preacher, a big guy that was in the politics and all that, and he sues him.
Yeah,
and court says no,
and went to the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah,
and
so when we see stuff like this, and we saw the Afro Man case last week. And we know how that ended. Didn't end well for the people bringing it. Brings more attention to them. And now we see this guy who's bringing this claim for tens of millions of dollars. I don't see it. I hate when that's it's great to talk about, but the reality of it is, you don't think this guy's going to collect anything, do you?
Well, let me touch on a couple things.
Yeah.
First of all, what are his remedies? What is he looking for? Now, is he want a public apology? Well, this guy's a comedian. He acknowledges that that's incorrect, but he's doing it for a laugh. All right? So that's done. As far as damages, what is this guy does this guy have Spotify downloads that people are looking at him and saying, I'm not going to download or listen to your music because you've been lying to me the whole time? I don't think so. That sounds unreasonable. But let's assume for a second. Okay, he wins. Let's assume that and this was filed in California, so you never know, right?
Never know.
Well, we know in California, lawsuits are being filed all day long, and specifically, we know that the one against Meta, Facebook, and all the ones against social media platforms were filed in California. So there's a reason for that, and we talked before why a lot of the high-profile criminal cases are filed in New York, and some of these civil cases are filed in California. And we'll touch upon this down the road.
Sure,
but it's juries, right? It's how you see members of that community feel about certain issues. So there's a reason why it's filed in California.
Yeah.
Now let's assume he wins $20 million. None of it is collectible. He's not going to get a nickel. I remember early in my career, I was able to get in federal court a judgment. Again, it was a contracts case. I mean, it was a legit case. We filed it. We won the case. It was $1 million verdict. Now, this wasn't insurance-based, so we had to try to collect it. And I think you remember.
I remember.
The case was the guy ended up being in California. We got somebody out there to try to help us. It's never collected.
Never.
We got zilch, zero.
Yep.
So go ahead. Get $27 million. Get $5 million. You're not going to get a nickel.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand what the motive is. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It makes a good talking point.
Sure.
I think the individual who wins out of this is the comedian, because we're talking about it now. I've looked in the past 24 hours. I've probably seen several of his stand-up videos online and YouTube. This guy's hilarious.
So
this guy's hilarious.
I got a little bit of a different take on it, and here's where I'm going with it. I think you and I both agree this is not a case he's going to succeed with. Okay. And we know that in order for him to succeed, he's got to show a couple of things. One, we talked about that harm. Would a reasonable person believe that it's a factual thing, or is it a joke? Yeah. But the other thing you got to show is damages, right?
Sure.
So we got this guy. What's the composer's name?
Meraki.
So this guy,
Who? Let's make sure the record is clear
Yeah,
before he
yep,
sues us. He is a
Very litigious.
Grammy-winning South African composer. Let's give him some props for that.
all
Okay.
right, okay,
We'll
so
make sure that's correct.
So walk down. So walk down this road with me, right? Here's the road
I'm
we're
walking, brother.
down. So this guy's got this big hit, this big song back in whenever Lion King was, right?
Yeah, I think.
94.
94.
Wow.
Okay. So now he brings this attention where back to his song, right?
Sure.
And now he's going to show damages. What's he going to show? That people aren't downloading it anymore, or is it going to be the opposite?
Yeah.
And now
brought
it's
it-
bringing it back into the
brought
public.
attention
So,
to it.
so now all of a sudden you're going to say, okay, so maybe you can show that a reasonable person, but let's look at the damages. In fact, your sales have gone up, or you've earned more.
Yeah.
This is a good way for this guy to come back and
Yeah.
rejuvenate this music. So maybe it's we're playing checkers and this guy's playing chess. I don't know.
I can't wait to hear the house music remix with that composer. With I think Brandon was shouting it out earlier, and I'm not gonna do that. The
Yeah.
Zulu vocal, but you're right. You're bringing it more attention. You're not going to be able to prove damages, but here's another part of going back to lightening the room a little bit. You know, you and I are lawyers, right? And we're always, I think, as lawyers, you always have to read the room and you
Sure.
have to work the room.
Yeah.
And I tell people this. You got to work the prosecutor, you got to work the judge, you got to work your client, you got to work you're always working. And when you walk into a room in the circumstance, it's a dense circumstance, right? I mean, whatever the charges are, you're walking into a courthouse, you're walking into judges' chambers, everybody's tired. You're talking about these cases. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to throw some humor. You want to make a joke about
Yeah.
yourself. And not to say that you want to be disingenuous as to what the topic is or what you're there for, but you want to say, you know what? We're all humans. Take a deep breath. Have a smile. Let's crack a joke. And then we'll get into why we're here. And that's okay. I think that's always been kind of and I know that's your motto too. You try to work a room, right?
You try to work a room, but you also try to be a human being.
Absolutely.
And I think what you just said goes a long way. And that's what these comedians are also doing. Shame on this guy. Anyway.
Shame. I'm going to be interested to know what
I know.
happens.
We both know what's going to happen. Okay, so I want to shift gears into something else. And it's something that you and I talk about all the time. Every day we're talking about it. We're talking about sports.
Talking about what's for dinner?
No.
We talk about that a lot, too.
No, what's for lunch, what's
What's
for
for
dinner.
dinner.
Right. No, we're talking, we talk sports all the time.
All the time.
And, obviously the law and sports interact so much.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's interesting right now. You've got college basketball Final Four, the final game coming up here within the next week. But you also have players that are hitting the portal or soon going to hit the portal for college basketball.
Yeah. Disaster.
And it is the way it is now. It's how much money can I get in name, image, likeness. And so college basketball players are just about to hit it. College football players have been in it.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the cases you and I were looking at, which we thought even before we had this idea of going into a podcast or doing things, is this idea of what is a college athlete?
Yeah.
Is he an athlete who's on scholarship, name, image, likeness? They're getting paid. And recently Duke University had a quarterback.
Mensa.
What's his name?
Darian
Menza. And he's got a 2-year name, image, likeness deal with Duke. And then he decides he's skipping town. He's going to go get a better.
Yeah. He's probably going to go to Miami.
And so, that brings an interesting concept here, which now brings the law into it. Because before, you're just college athletes.
Yeah.
Now the issue becomes, are they college athletes? Are they employees? Are they, are now they subject to different laws, or are they,
Independent contractors. I mean, it could be.
So what's your take on that?
Look, just to give some background on that. So he signs a 2-year deal, 2-year NIL deal with Duke University, ACC, $8 million. All right. And I haven't reviewed the contract, but the contract, I'm assuming, is an exclusive NIL rights, and basically says, look, we're gonna pay you to play football. In addition to that, we're gonna use your name. We're gonna
But wait a minute. Be careful.
What?
Got paying you to play football.
Okay. If you want to go there, if we want to go there, but we all know what these things are.
We do.
And on top of that, these athletes, they've got agents.
Mm-hmm.
So let's call it what it is. It's a $8 million 2-year contract. Now, what they're going to say, and I'm going to say it, we're going to pay you to play football.
Yeah.
We're also going to pay to sell every jersey with your name on it, right? Everything that you got with your name on it, we're going to make money. Now, part of where they get money, a lot of these schools, they have collectives. Part of it is merchandising, right? They want to put your name everywhere. They want to sell tickets. They want to get students. They want to get people to purchase tickets, and they want people at the games.
Right.
Now, at that point, to me, he becomes an employee. He's an employee. He's no longer a student athlete. To me, a student athlete, first of all, a student, right? I got a kid in college, student. He's a student. You go to school, go to class, do your homework, whatever, and you're just a student. Now, a student athlete, where a school says we're going to provide you scholarship, we're going to pay for your education, but you got to play football. So there's an exchange there. It's a contract.
Yep.
The contract is, I benefit from you playing on my team. You benefit from me paying for your education. Now, take it a step further. The third part of that, you have somebody that signs a contract. Now, all student athletes sign a contract, but you're signing a contract not only for free tuition, we're paying for your school, but we're also going to give you a stipend. And the stipend is not the $1,500 food stipend that athletes used to get before NIL. It's an $8 million 2-year deal.
Yeah.
And to me, that morphs. You're not a student. You're not a student athlete. You're an employee, because now you've got obligations.
Sure.
And for college athletes, who, again, I don't know what the percentage is, but who's getting multi-million-dollar contracts are the top tier guys. But this individual decides after a year, his agent probably calls him and says, "Look, we don't know the ceiling of the NIL contracts yet, brother. $8 million, $4 million a year, that's really nothing. That's just crumbs. Carson Beck's leaving Miami. Guess what they paid him? You're going to be the highest paying college quarterback at $10 million." So he's like, okay, I'm going to answer the transfer portal. Duke says, we want our money back.
You got a contract. You got a 2-year contract.
You got a 2-year contract. Now, ultimately, what's going to happen, I think, and ultimately what these schools are going to do is going to have buyout agreements.
Yeah.
In which they need to do. So it's going to be contract-based. So ultimately, he's going to land, most likely, the rumors are, in Miami. Miami's going to end up paying Duke $4 million. They don't care. Miami's got $20 million.
Yeah.
For whatever athletes they want. I think the bigger issue, and you and I always talk sports, I think the bigger issue is that there's no regulation. And this entity of NCAA, they're not doing anything to regulate it. It's the wild, wild west. And if something is not done about it, then you want to call it college sports. It cannot be called college sports it's going to be called semi-pro sports.
Yeah.
So that bothers me. That's why Nick Saban got away from coaching football. I think there's no purity anymore. I love college football. I'm not going to stop watching it. We're not going to stop watching it. But what's happening now, and we just saw, college basketball, and we saw Miami go on a huge run, and then all of a sudden you see the Twitters and kids are leaving. Wright State, they make a great run. The kids are leaving. I don't blame them.
Every place.
I don't blame them because that's where we're at. That's where we're at in society right now.
Yeah.
If you tell a 20-year-old kid that somebody's going to pay you $500,000 to play basketball, what are you going to do? Sprint.
Sure.
There's no commitment anymore, and it's sad. And I hope the NCAA creates some sort of regulation. You just got to have a salary cap. I think you're going to have to create deadlines. I think you're going to have to put provisions on there that if somebody wants to transfer, just like high school, if you're transferring schools, you got to wait a period. Put the penalty on you. Say, look, fine, you can transfer. You sign this 2-year deal, and just because some college team, they have more money than others, we're going to make the players sit out. That's going to make them think twice.
Yeah.
So that's my take. I don't like it.
Well, I don't know if anybody likes it. I think everybody would agree that the way the system is set up, that it's got a lot of problems. And I think you're right. Your opinion on that their employees may not be legally defined yet,
Sure.
but I think we're getting closer and closer to that. And it's interesting because I think the way that the narrative and I think that the way that these issues are being defined have been athlete and agent generated. When Alabama gets a basketball player who's got professional experience and they bring him on campus and they get him. And all of that is athlete driven. Hey, I get to play. And they're bringing the litigation to do it. They're bringing the litigation initially and it was NIL. Hey, you guys aren't letting me earn money like everybody else. They get it. Now, I think what we're seeing, USC, I think, has litigation that's out there where the universities are saying, wait a minute, just like you're bringing up, we contract with these folks. We need to have more definition. And I think you're right. I think ultimately the way that these student athletes are going to be, they're going to be defined as employees. And so what's that mean? That means that they're going to be held to different standards than perhaps they are now. There's going to be different penalties. I think the schools are getting smarter as far as what kind of contracts and what they're going to put in the contract. So, yeah, I think you're right. It's not good, and there's going to be a lot more. I think, and this is a completely different conversation, but there's going to be a lot of fatigue from fans and donors, and I wonder where all this is going to end. But as it relates here, we kind of focused on this because it's more of a contract question. See where things go.
Well, think about workers' comp. Workers' comp employees are generally defined as any person hired to perform services for wages or under salary under an employer's control, encompassing full-time, part-time, or even off-seasonal workers. Now, who controls the players? Coaches. Who controls the coaches? The athletic director. Who controls the athletic director? Mm-hmm. President of they're all employees.
Yeah.
So the way that I see this lawsuit ending up is going to set some standards, and I hope the NCAA will even go a step further and to create further regulations, not only for student athletes, Nick, but coaches are also involved, and part of that labor disputes. And I think you mentioned, who was that coach?
Will Wade.
Will Wade.
Will Wade. What's the deal with that situation? That to me sounded a little shady, where you're under contract and you know that, and there's exit strategies, and there's ways that you have to comport with yourself. You have to tell your athletic director, hey, I'm thinking. This isn't like a divorce where you're like sneaking away to go meet somebody else. You're like, professionally, you say, hey, I'm thinking about looking at this other team. I don't want to leave you hanging. I don't want these kids to go. I don't want the rumors to spread. But I'm going to go talk to that team. Nothing's set in stone. I'm just letting you know so you can be ready. What did he do?
Yeah. What a mess. What a mess. You got, I think Will Wade was in his first year at NC State. He had been a runoff for things at LSU. NC State says, yeah, we like you. We're going to bring you in, 6-year contract. Here we go. He's putting his team together. And, when I think about coaches, right, you think about these great coaches that we see and they're leaders of men, right? You remember in high school, your high school coaches.
Absolutely.
You've got great relationships with many of them. These guys have great relationships, and they say, look, you come here, we're going to take care of your kid. Now you got Will Wade. He signs a 6-year contract.
Jeez. Season's
not over, and the rumors are he bought a house in Baton Rouge. Yeah. And he was in discussions during the season.
Yeah.
If you ask NC State fans, which I don't know a lot of them, but I know some, they'll say, well, we started tanking. Maybe he wasn't as focused as he should have been.
Sure.
But ultimately, I think it came out that he's secretly negotiating to take this new job. But it goes to similar things like we were talking about with players. They've got a contract. Wade's got a contract. And in his contract, I think NC State had a foreshadowing that we need to make this as locked tight as we can.
They tried to.
Pretty
detailed contract.
Very much. You got to notify the school.
Yeah.
You've got to deal. It's like good faith.
Yeah.
You've got to have a loyalty clause. There's a loyalty clause. You're our guy. We're with you. And so be straight with us. And he still speaks with the AD. The next day, who calls the AD? Not Will Wade.
Yeah.
The next day, his agent calls. Hey, by the way, his boxes are moved out of his office.
Yeah, man. Forward the mail.
He's on his way. And so, I think there was a time when NC State was thinking, we've got claims for breach of contract, tortious interference against LSU.
Right.
We've got this locked down. But you know what? I think ultimately that goes on for a long time. It makes it ugly. Nobody wants that. And what's NC State do?
Yeah.
They go ahead and resolve it.
It's not good for business.
Give us the buyout and be gone. And I guess buyer beware who you're getting in bed with, right?
Well, it's interesting because following suit is the same type of behavior that we saw with LSU and the Lane Kiffin situation, right? He's at the tarmac. He's on the plane, and we talked about this. I think the issue there was he's letting his assistant coaches on the hush-hush, allegedly, hey, I've got this good gig. You may want to put in for it now. Wink. I'm getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have to be that way. It tells you something about LSU. It's almost like, well, we don't care how we get it. That's who we want, and we're going to go after it. That tells you where college sport. I don't remember college sports being that way. I just remember when the coach gets hired, he's there for a very long time unless he does something or resigns.
Yeah.
Right? Like think about all the Ohio State coaches. They're there unless you're tripping some kid or doing something. There were some scandals there back in the day when you athletes couldn't make money, and that's what happened to Jim Tressel, and who's a stand-up guy. But you're either there or you go to the NFL, but you're there forever.
Yeah.
But now it's like a 2 or 3 year deal, and you're quickly trying to find the next deal. That's where we're going. But again, going back to this thing, why doesn't the NCAA do something about it?
I mean, at that point in time, I guess I get what you're saying. I'm kind of glad they don't. I mean, they got to get out of the. They can't even handle this stuff. But when you've got an entity like NC State, and they must have smelled that this was, we got to be careful with this guy. But it still didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
He still did it.
He's going to do what he's going to do.
He still did it.
Why couldn't these contracts be written better? Same thing with the NIL. Why is this even up for debate? It should be written into these contracts.
Brandon, I think they are written. Yeah. I think it's written very well. It's just really, who's got a stomach for it? And what I mean by that is, we're talking about a university like NC State, and they say, okay, we've lost our coach. This guy he's hurt us. But we got to get a new coach. We got to hire him. We've got to keep moving forward. We got to be positive. And I think ultimately where they ended up was, let's resolve this thing and wash our hands and feet of this guy and move on. But I think they did everything they could. Ultimately, I think that they had a really good contract claim.
Yeah.
And, but for the fact that they just didn't want to get into that litigation, they're going to have to pay their lawyers too.
Yeah.
They got, 4 or 5 million, whatever it was, and they move on. So, unfortunately, it's the nature of that business, and it's kind of ugly. So I think that's part of where that is.
Well, Nick, you mentioned something about kind of thought process that goes through it. And I think what we do as lawyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it matters what area of law, right? So I'm assuming NC State, they've got a team of lawyers, right? High-priced lawyers, $2,000 an hour lawyers, or not like us. But the same analysis goes into it, right? You just like you just laid it out.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming a team of lawyers laid it out. Kind of what we do as lawyers.
Sure.
Whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, you look at it from a big picture and you say, well, what do you ultimately, when you're talking to a client, what would make you happy? What would you be acceptable? And are you willing to weigh the risks? And what are the potential outcomes? And what are the pitfalls that you're going to see if you do take that risk?
Sure.
Are you willing to assume that risk? And ultimately, you mentioned about that NC State settlement. Yeah, it hurts them more by dragging it out.
It does.
So when we advise clients, when we're talking to clients, it's almost like, all right, everybody gets fired up, right? I got my lawyer. Put your suit on. We're going. And I want you to do whatever you can to punish that other side or to get me this result, because that's what your job is. Well, my job is not only to try to zealously represent my client, but also try to keep my client's temperament down. Because as lawyers, you got to take the emotions out of it. And when you take the emotions out of it and you look at it and you say, look, here are the risks of pursuing this and continuing to go to trial. Here are the risks, what's going to cost you if you go this far. But right now, this to me would be a best case scenario if you don't want to risk that. It's always a risk assessment. When it's not about wins and losses. When people say, "Would you win?" I'm like, that's all relative. Did NC State win there? I don't know. It's all relative. Does LSU win? No. You really have to evaluate it for themselves, and that's what we do as lawyers. You're trying to just navigate through this chaotic system. It really is chaotic.
Yeah.
And you're trying to guide your client the best that you can. to make an informed decisions. And I always tell client, look, I'm going to lay it out for you, and I'll go on there and I'll fight like heck for you. I'll do whatever I can for you, and I will give you the options. But you're ultimately going to decide what's best for you. And I've had clients says, I am not comfortable with this. Is too stressful. I don't want to assume the risk, and I don't want to continue through this path, because for individuals who have not been into our realm, our legal field, and for the first time, whether you're getting sued civilly, whether it's minor or major, whether it's a criminal or traffic case, you take that home.
Yeah.
You're not sleeping. You're thinking about it. How are you going to move on? I had a guy talking today. He can't sleep. It's a minor issue that he's dealing with. And I said, dude, you got to just take a step back. The process is what it is, and it's going to be okay. But, I think that's what we do. And you talked about, well, that was the best scenario for them. It just makes sense. Like, yeah, it hurts us more. We know we're right. We have these claims. What he did was wrong. But it hurts us at the end of the day by continuing to move forward, because this is an institution of higher learning. These are kids.
Yeah.
College, whatever you look at, except for the two quarterbacks in the national championship games, they're between the ages of 18 to 21.
Yeah.
Right? They're children. They're kids. I know they're adults, but, I look at my kid. They're a kid. My kid's 21. They're going to be 20 now. But a kid, right? They're still trying to figure it out. So I think the lawyers in the rooms took the temperature down, rightfully so, and the individuals at the university says, look, what's best for us is going to be best for us and best for us only. We don't care how it looks like. So sometimes you're going to have to put your ego aside and say what's best for you. That may not be best for everyone, but it's got to work for you. And I think as lawyers, that's what we got to do. Got to make sure that we take care of individuals and make sure that we guide them to the right spot.
Yeah, you brought up that's a really good point. And I look back at my legal career over 30 years, and I say to myself, how have I changed as a lawyer? And as I matured as a lawyer, I realized a couple of things. Ultimately, we are in a service industry.
Yeah.
And it's our job to do the best that we can for our clients. And I always tell our clients, I say, we're in the conference room, and I'll say, listen, while we're in this room, we're going to speak openly and we're going to speak honestly.
Yeah.
Outside this room, I'm your advocate. I'm the guy that's going to go to battle for you. But in here, I owe you the truth about where we are. People that need a lawyer, unless you've just won the lottery, it's typically a bad time in your life.
Absolutely.
And you're right. You said it. It's stressful. And so when you have a client, it's important for us, me and you, and I know you do this too, is you say to them, listen, here's where we are. We've got a case. It's a defensible case, meaning we can go into court and we can win this case. Or we can go and we can lose this case. So ultimately, you've got to decide, what is your threshold for risk?
Right.
And every person is different as to what their threshold for risk is. I look at myself in my age right now, my threshold to risk is so low.
Very low.
I see a yellow light, I slow down.
Absolutely.
I see, I'd like to say I see an extra piece of cake. I don't eat it. I typically do. That's my risk. But if I'm 25, maybe your threshold to risk is different than a 35, 45. Maybe your threshold to risk as a client who's single might be different than someone who is the sole provider.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, we've got a case. We could win this case.
Yep.
But if you don't win it, you could lose your job. You could lose your income, and your family will suffer. So the decision that you make as our client is going to be an informed decision on what the possibilities are going to be. And then you make that decision that is based upon what's important for you, along with your threshold to the risk. And I think that if lawyers don't do that, I think that they're doing a big disservice to their clients.
Yeah.
You've got to tell them. And it's not because a client says, well, wait a minute, are you scared to go to trial? No.
Nope.
Because here's the deal. I remember a long time ago, I remember a lawyer saying, here's what's going to happen. On Monday, we're going to pick a jury. This is what I'm 100% sure of. Monday, we're going to pick a jury.
Yeah.
Tuesday, we're going to start all of our evidence. On Wednesday, the evidence is going to be done. We're going to be done with the trial. On Wednesday night, the jury's going to come back. They're going to come back guilty. You're going to go to jail, and I'm going home. And that was very cold. And the reality of it is that we will do everything that we can to advocate for our client if we're going to go to trial. But you never, ever, ever lose sight of the fact that the person that wins or loses or suffers is the client and his family.
Sure.
And so the decision that has to be made is theirs. And so it's not a bravado, oh, we're going to go to trial, we're going to win this case. It is a reality of where we are. And the NC State situation, it exemplifies that to a point where they've got a case that they can be successful with, but they weigh it out and they made a decision. And for them, I think they thought it was the right decision. So that's what you have to do as a lawyer, right?
Sure.
You got to do it, and I think that you do a nice job of it. You've these are things that you've learned. These are things that I've learned, and if you don't do it, you're doing a disservice to your clients.
Nick, when you mention these are the things that you've learned, it really is. When you go to law school, right, we got these books here on our shelves. You're just reading, right? Just reading in case law and reading in case law. There's really no practical sense of what you learn. You don't learn the emotions. You don't learn how to talk to clients. You don't learn how to really be a lawyer. But you learn the law. You learn analytical, the Socratic method of teaching, right? You learn how to speak on your feet, and you try to get the mindset of building. It's like a program in a computer, like an AI computer, for the next 20 or 30 years as you generate through the legal process. But the things that I didn't know is the emotional part of things. Like I didn't know I wanted to get into criminal defense work. I dabbled in a lot of different things early on, just to try to figure out what you want to be. And you don't go to law school and say, I want to do corporate law, I want to do bankruptcy law, I want to do criminal. You just don't know. I was fortunate enough to try to be able to do a couple different things until I landed in the spot where I really felt my niche. But early on in my career, learning to do criminal defense work, it was difficult. It was difficult because, one, you just didn't have the experience in the courtroom. So, you're the younger lawyer and you're trying to cross-examine, a veteran police officer, a veteran detective. So you just didn't feel as comfortable in maneuvering that, right? And that just comes with experience. But more importantly, how do you deal with the emotional side of a client? So you get a client early on in my career. It's like, 1 or 2 years out, and it's just like, I think it was a simple possession case. Unfortunately, my client, had a lengthy record, and the judge was being polite and says, "Look, Tony, you've done everything you could. Believe me, you got to just tone it down. You've done everything you could, but I think you just need some time away." He was going to send him to prison. I think you just need some time away just to think about it. It's going to be fine. I took it personally. I took it personally, and I felt awful. It took me days of just thinking about it, like, what could I have done differently? Like, oh my God, he's really going away for, and part of that is you just don't learn it, and so you just learn how to understand the person, you understand the human. You have to kind of weigh in that option. You have to talk to him, and sometimes, things are going to happen, and you can't win every case. And sometimes, yeah, your clients do get sentenced. And for a lawyer to say, I never lose cases, my client, no, that's not true. You know, you've been doing this for over 30 years. I've got 20-something years. It's not true.
Right.
But that's, I think until you have to just humanize everything. You know, when we represent somebody and you're meeting them, that's what it is. You get to know them because that's who the person that you want to build this rapport with.
Yeah.
And our field is a difficult field. It's just a difficult field because unlike civil cases, the worst that could happen is civil cases money.
Yeah.
That's the worst that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But you tell somebody that is, you know, wrongfully accused, or at least the evidence doesn't show it, and he's accused of a serious felony, and you're explaining to him that if you're convicted, there could be a lengthy prison sentence, and you just see this ghost look like, wow, that's where their life is, and they look at you, and it's a cry for help, like, please, Lord, give this man the strength to do everything he can for me. And sometimes that weighs on me.
Yeah.
It is stressful.
I think if
You
it
just
doesn't
think about it.
I think if it doesn't weigh on you, then you need to do something else.
I think you're right. I think the moment, you know, when somebody's, how long are you going to do this? At the moment that you lose that feeling where you're not worried about it, you're not worried about your client, then you're doing it for the wrong people. So why do you want to be a lawyer? I want to help people. That's it.
You know what? We talked to. I've had this situation since I was in law school. I remember some law students were saying, "Well, you know, I couldn't do criminal defense. I couldn't do this." And you have people that you run into, and they say, "Well, how could you defend these
Oh yeah.
people?
How could you?
How could you?" And I remember as a new lawyer, they used to have in municipal courts, a municipal court, as you know, maybe some people don't realize the jurisdiction. It's a misdemeanor court. It's a court, so you live in a particular city. You know, you live in Kettering, Ohio, and there's a misdemeanor charge. You go to court in Kettering, Ohio. You go to that court. And I remember going to a court that was a night court, and I didn't quite understand it. And I went out, and the judge that was out there was kind of a good old boy. And I said, "Judge, I don't understand. Why are we here at night?"
Yeah.
And night court, before I was a lawyer, there were a lot of night courts. There were courts that operated at night, and the judge would be there after 5 o'clock.
Sure.
There used to be a TV
There
show.
was a TV show, yeah.
Called Night Court.
Absolutely.
Right. And the judge looked at me and he said, "Nick, we're at night court because I don't want people to miss work. I want them to be able to come to court after work." And he gave me a great lesson that I've never forgotten. And he said, municipal court is a court of the people.
Yeah.
It's a court where 90% of the people that come to court here are your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers. They are people who have had a bad day.
Yeah.
They're not bad people.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to have them here at night. And I want them to miss work. And when they're here, I'm going to treat them like human beings. I'm going to treat them like they have had a bad day. And there isn't anybody that doesn't have a bad day. There isn't anybody that didn't yell or scream or get into an argument, act like a fool. And oftentimes that might lead to a criminal charge. Those folks are just regular people.
Yeah.
But the consequences can be life-shattering. It can cause a person to lose a job. You know, we represent nurses.
Yeah.
We represent
doctors.
We
lawyers.
Right.
Name them. Every professional.
Many of them are going to lose their license. They're going to lose their professional license. They're going to have ramifications at work that are life-changing. For what? Again, I go back to the judge. This is a people's court.
Love that.
This is where they had a bad day. And so, if we can help them through that bad day, then that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
That makes you feel good. And unfortunately, I think we've lost a lot of that.
We don't have that.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
And so you're right. We started on this conversation about, how you talk to your clients and how you be honest with your clients and you try to help your clients through difficult situations. And now we talk about the court system where many of them appear.
Yeah. The court system has changed. Nick. You mentioned that, and the court of the people. I mean, when people say this all the time, like, how could you represent? Let me tell you something. The majority of the people we represent, the majority of people we represent are individuals that have never had a criminal or traffic record.
Right.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. And you're right. They've had a bad day. So for the people that are out there that are judging, oh, how could you do this? Well, guess what? It could happen to you. And the first thing you're going to do is you want to go to your lawyer and you want your lawyer to warm up to you and say, okay, you've had a bad day. Let me help you. And it kind of transitioned to another topic here. I think one thing that society feeds on is the news of these celebrities. Mm-hmm. And you know what? They're human beings, okay? They get to have a bad day. And I'm mentioning this because most recently in the news, Justin Timberlake, and this was about a year ago. In 2024, he gets a DUI, right? Pop star, movie star, NSYNC, right? Everything. International, right? He gets a DUI, just like any other individual that have gone through the process, right? He goes to court. He gets the case resolved. Now, we have these days, I think to the benefit of individuals who go through the process, body cam video, right? And under the Freedom of Information Act, the public is entitled to see information that it gets saved and stored in public entities, including databases that belong to police agency and the court system. His lawyers fought and fought and fought to try to prevent the release of that because obviously he's had all the positive things. And I guarantee, I don't know much about him personally, but I guarantee that he's donated and he's helped people and he's put smiles in people's lives. All these positive things that he's done. We take one incident and we try to poo-poo him. Mm-hmm. And even when he says, Judge, I accept responsibility. Please don't embarrass me anymore. I'll do what you want. I'll go to the program. I'll pay my fines. I'll pay my debt to society. But this is going to go around the world. What benefit does that have?
Right.
And I know we've had cases, right? We've had cases where local news media, they get involved. They're in the business of presenting the news, and you see your client's picture. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
It's, again, people, they get charged. It's a low point in their life. They've made a mistake. Sometimes it's serious. We as human beings are curious about it. I don't like it. I guess I don't like it because of what we do from the standpoint of I know what the impact is. Yeah. I know what the judgment is. We're so quick to judge people. We're so quick to point a finger. And I say this a lot of times. You know, especially when we're doing something like going to trial and picking a jury.
Yeah.
You've got I use this example. I say you're at home, you're having dinner, you just had dinner, you turn on the evening news, and you see the news, and you see the police walking some guy into the police station in cuffs.
Yeah. The
And
perp walk.
The perp walk.
Why?
And they say, oh, so and so was arrested and charged with, and the first thing people say is, I can't believe that guy did it.
Right.
What a horrible human being.
Right. Throw out the Constitution, throw this young lady
Yep.
out the window. We
Yep.
don't need it anymore.
Yep. And I see stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they are forever then shamed. They are forever, and it's like we must be so much better than those people. We're so much better than that guy on TV. And you know, you brought this up, and just this weekend I was flipping through the channels, and I turned on 30 for 30. They had an old one that I had seen, which was the
ESPN, love it.
ESPN. It was the Duke lacrosse team.
Oh God, I remember that.
And these kids were charged with, like, you know, a sexual assault.
Yeah.
And the prosecutor had tainted the DNA or hidden the DNA
It was
results.
politically motivated.
Yeah. And yet those, that lacrosse coach, he lost his job, his career, but everybody jumped to it
Right away.
And one of the things, when you brought this up just now, first thing I remembered was there was a person who was writing articles for one of the newspapers, and she was all over it from the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was something like, the headline was something, hey, Duke lacrosse players, you know it, we know what you did. And when they were exonerated, she did something that you don't see anybody do. She wrote a letter apologizing to them and saying to them, you know, how sorry she was.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, those guys were very gracious in how they handled it. And some of them said, we don't blame the young lady that was involved in it. You know, they were vindicated, and ultimately their character came through at the end. But
It's too late.
it's too late, and people remember them, and you know, even now I'm like Googling them to see where they are and what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you know, so we see that, and we see the Justin Timberlake, and we're caught up in that, and we're caught up in look, Tiger Woods gets another OVI.
Yeah.
And we
Which
can't
is
wait
an
to see.
interesting, which is kind of a separate issue, but than the Timberlake, I think.
Well, sure. The Timberlake thing is, again, this is 2 years old.
This is 2 years old. Leave him alone. I know we're talking about it, but the reason I brought it up was that you mentioned, it stuck out in my mind because you mentioned somebody has one bad day, and all of a sudden the case is over.
2 years.
And he's asking, just do not release it, and it's released, and everybody's going, ha ha.
Ha ha. Look how poor he did on his field sobriety test.
Yeah.
Ha ha. Look at him. He was impaired.
Yeah.
Look, he's
Shame on him.
intoxicated. And how many of, you know, if you don't drink, you don't drink. But
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you consume alcohol, you may act foolish at times. And that's maybe what I didn't watch it. I have no interest in watching it.
Yeah, I have
but he
no
probably looked
Yeah.
foolish, and he looked a little ridiculous. But so what? You know, why do we care?
And not only that, but I don't think people realize how humbling it is to get arrested, to get handcuffs, to have your liberties taken away, and then to show up to court. So the point is, society, they already got the pound of flesh on it.
Yeah.
Now, there's a video out there. I think this brings me to another point, Nick, and one thing that I don't think we've talked about before, and one thing that I'm very frustrated about our court system.
Oh boy, I know exactly.
Very frustrated because it's coming up and I don't understand it. Now, when individuals are charged with a crime, and let's pick something very simple, okay? Let's pick something very simple. like disorderly conduct. Okay, you're at a restaurant, you had a bad day, okay? And no matter how they cooked your steak, it wasn't going to be good enough. All right?
Yeah.
And you're taking it out on that poor waiter.
Maybe you had a beer or two.
All right? You took it out on the poor waiter, and ultimately you said some really mean things to him, and you threw your steak at him.
You lost your cool.
Lost your cool. Bad day. Officers arrived. They arrest you. There's body cam video. There's cameras all over the restaurant, so there's no defense. You go into court and you say, humbly, judge, humbly, I plead guilty.
I had a bad day.
I had a bad day. And the judge is going to say, all right, well, you know what? Instead of putting you in jail for 30 days, I'll suspend your sentence. Thanks for coming in here, fall on the sword. I'm going to make you go do an alcohol class to make sure that you're not going to be drinking anymore. I'm going to make you do an anger management class. I'm going to put you on probation and have our good folks in the probation department monitor you, because we don't trust you, monitor you for about a year. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you a fine, and you're going to pay the clerk's office some money too, right, on top of what you paid your lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay. You do all those things humbly, right? You do all those things. In the meantime, you've lost your job because you got charged. Now you're working whatever you can to pay your bills, right? We're talking about, an average person here. Afterwards, the law, and again, every state is different. I want to talk about Ohio. You here in Ohio, once you're off of probation, you wait a year time, right? So you get convicted, you do all those things the judge says very humbly, you fall on the sword, you bow down, you say all the right things, you go on probation, you're a straight A probation, you do all the right things, and after a year, the probation department says, hey, look, judge, we don't need to supervise this person anymore. He's done everything. They give you a rubber stamp. You're done. The clock turns. You wait a year, right? You're working this job, and all of a sudden you've got some other opportunities, but they see this on your record.
Yeah.
Well, the law says, okay, well, after a year, you wait a year after you serve your probationary period of time. You wait a year after that. So now you're like 3 years removed.
Yep.
You can show up to the court. You have to pay a filing fee. It's not for free. You got to pay a fee to say humbly, judge, you remember me from 3 years ago. I'm a new person. I'm not that guy. I had one bad day, but I haven't had one since. Can I expunge my record? Now, guess what happens? The individual.
Why don't you explain what expunging it means?
Expunging, there's two things in Ohio law, and every state is different, but in Ohio law, it's recently passed, where before you can seal the record, it forbids the public from any public view of it. Now,
Takes it out.
Takes it out. So if somebody says, I want to go to the clerk's office, look up John Smith's or John Doe's case, they'll say it's sealed, it's no longer here. They can't even tell you about it. Now, expunging treats it as it's never happened. Sealing, the record still exists, but it's hidden from public record. So if you apply for any sort of, high security public interest job, and they want to figure it out, they can try to unseal it. Okay, so those are the two issues, and it's under the same statute. So you show up, and the judge. So what has to happen now is that the prosecutor, they get to notify the individual that you had an issue with. So they go back 3 years to the waiter, they find him and say, look, remember that guy? Oh yeah, I remember that guy. How do you feel about him expunging his record? Well, I don't like that. So they get to show up to court. They get to say all these things about you. The prosecutor says, well, have you been drinking? Well, I had one. So alcohol is still a part of your, well, no, it's not. And the judge still has a discretion to say, well, look, you know what? I understand you want to advance, you want to get a job, and you can't get a better job. I'm not going to expunge your record. On top of that, if a situation hits social media, if the video goes out there, I think my frustration is, instead of looking at it and rewarding somebody for accepting responsibility, doing everything that that you ask them to. We have the court system. The judge says, hey, you got to do what I tell you to do. 3 years later, you go back to court, and a judge looks in you in the eye, and his audacity to say, I'm not going to expunge your record. What happened to we are the court of the people, Nick?
I know.
What's going on with, our court system? And I'm not saying this is across the board. I'm not saying that all courts are looking at it this way. But some courts, some judges, and some prosecutors feel like, well, hey, this hasn't been enough time. There's still a public need, a legitimate government need to keep a misdemeanor. Now, I get it, felonies, and I get certain things that are not excludable, and I think certain violent offense, and I get that. I'm talking about minor type of situations. And to me, it's almost like one bad day is a forever thing in some of these courts' eyes. And I think we have the law that allows you a mechanism, but we're still making it difficult for clients to do that. And that, to me, when I represent somebody to expunge or seal their record, to me, it's the most rewarding thing, because it's almost like, all right, officially, I can finally turn that page. I'm ready. It's rewarding.
Yeah.
But then when you go through that and it's 3 years later and the court denies it, and it's almost like, why are we even here? Why am I here as a lawyer? If you're going to do what you're going to do anyway, if you're going to look at this individual and say, there's never going to be a circumstance where I'm ever going to seal that record, well, then forget about it.
Tony, you have every reason to feel that way. I feel that way. And I feel that way, like we mentioned. It's a court of the people. We've had a bad day. You got a guy, a woman, a kid, a college student,
right,
who had a bad day. They go through all of that. They become, if you want to use the word rehabilitated, you can use it. But the reality of it is, they weren't rehabilitated. They had a bad day.
Right.
And now they've shown over years that was a bad day.
Right.
And I think the problem is bigger than that. I think that the problem is that we don't make decisions for the right reasons. We let others make the decisions. What I mean is, a judge should be able to make a decision without influence. Oh, somebody's not going to be happy with me.
That's what it is.
So then don't do the job.
Yeah. Find another job to do.
So, again, we pointed to Lady Justice right there with the blindfold on. And it's do the right thing. And, are we have people in this field become so jaded, or have they become conditioned in a certain way, or they don't have the experience to deal with human beings, to deal with people, right? And so you're right. When you say, what a great feeling it is.
Yeah.
You got a kid, maybe he's 20 years old in college and he made a mistake. You got a mother who made a mistake.
Sure.
Had a bad day. And now she gets to wear that scarlet letter around her neck for longer.
Yeah.
Why? The law was put in place for the right reason. But you have to have the right people implement the law.
Right.
And your frustration is more of it's more of a description of what we see in the legal world on other levels, right?
It's the inconsistency, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you walk in, and there are some great judges and great courtrooms that see it, and we talk about it. We're like, remember Judge so-and-so? I'm like, he's great. He gets it. The way he talks to my client, it makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But then you walk to other courts, not only are you getting shamed, but the client's getting shamed. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on for a second. Can we start again? Can I come in and start again? Why are you so upset? Right? I mean, we're here.
So I was.
The system doesn't fully forget ever.
So I was. I was in court this morning. I don't want to say where. You know where I was. This
I know where
morning.
you were.
And there were two judges that I saw, and they're municipal court judges, and they're really, really great human beings. And they're also judges. One was a lifelong prosecutor. And he said to me before, he says, I'm harder on prosecutors than I am on defense attorneys. And the reason I am is I know good people and I know bad people.
Yeah.
But he does the right thing when he's in the courtroom. And these judges were talking, and we were having a conversation. And this judge said to me, when you become a judge, you go to a judge's school and you have a seminar on how to be a judge. And he said probably within the first hour, the first speaker that got up started to lecture us and tell us, this is where you begin your legacy.
Oh, that's an awful thing to say.
Your legacy. And he looked at me and he said, I'm not here to create a legacy. I'm here to do the right thing and to treat people like human beings. I am a judge. If you deserve a punishment, I'm going to give it to you. If I can rehabilitate you, I'm going to do that. We have judges that when they put people on probation, they bring them back into the courtroom and they check on them. And then 6 months later, they check on them again. And then they come back in and says, listen, you're doing so great. They come off the bench and they embrace them and they give them a hug.
Love it.
And these are people, and I think, again, it's a microcosm of our society. We treat people like human beings, be treated how you want to be treated. And unfortunately, we don't do that enough. And what you're experiencing, what I'm experiencing, when you have, it's almost like a graduation. Hey, you made a mistake. We're going to get it off your record. Exhale, it's going to be okay. And oftentimes, even though we know that that's the law and we know it's the right thing to do, we certainly know sometimes, for a variety of reasons, judges won't do it because they're scared sometimes to make the right call.
And we know anything that you do, you file any application. You want to be on a volunteer board for your kids' sports team. Mm-hmm. The first question one of the questions they ask you, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, crap. There was that one time, it was after a game, and went there, we had a couple beers, and I got mad, and I threw a steak at the waiter. Mm-hmm. Ha. It's still on your record because the judge thinks that we should keep it on there because the waiter's still upset. I mean, that's a hypothetical. That's not. I mean, I made that up, but that's a hypothetical of potential true events. To me, again, I say this now, and I will never change my mind. I think being a judge it's a responsibility. It's not something where people should say, hey, I've reached the peak of what I want to do. And it's always says, I want to be a judge and wear a robe. There's a responsibility for that. And I think if you got to go in there and you do it for the right reasons, and a lot of times, for at least we're in the private sector. So for us, this is what we do, and we enjoy what we do, and we have our own practice. But if you're in the public sector, right, for different reasons, you just kind of stay. It's fluid. It's just natural. A lot of times, you see former prosecutors become judges. You see former public defenders because they're just in that kind of state roller coaster, and it just makes sense for them. And you develop relationships. With police officers or people, your coworkers, and you just don't want to upset anybody, or you don't want anybody to say, well, you're not good at your job. And it's like, where am I going to go from here? This is kind of the pinnacle. I can't, I got to run in another 4 years. I don't want to upset anybody. And to me, that shouldn't be the way it's done. I think if you do it, like you said, it doesn't matter who you know and what relationships. I think the relationship is, a judge and the individual if it's a criminal case, and what's fair.
Yeah.
What's fair, what's balanced. If an individual has, warrants a type of punishment, then go ahead and do so for those reasons. If it doesn't, then don't. But it shouldn't be a referee of trying to please others. It should be about me thinking to doing the right thing, and whether the person that's in front of me, if they deserve that, or if they've done enough, or are they a better person? They've come to me. Are they a better person now for the community? Now, you're right. I see a lot of these judges that, when the case is over, they make them come back, and that's great. I think that shows that you care because you want them to succeed.
Yeah.
And I just think we need to see a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I'm happy where I'm at, but that's kind of the mindset that I would like to see.
And I think it's the question that I answer, the way that I answer it is, if someone is going to run for judge or wants to be a judge, maybe it's the way I look at everything now, politicians or what have you.
Yeah.
But are they good to people?
Absolutely.
Do they believe in humanity and good things? Now, we represent people that are going to be punished sometimes.
Okay.
Treat them like human beings.
That's it.
And also, when it's appropriate, do the right thing. And it goes back to discretion, And I'll say something. I don't want this to be a negative thing about judges. There are some outstanding judges. I joke around every time in federal court with one of my favorite judges, Judge Rose, and I say, Judge, when you retire, I want to retire. I don't want to be a lawyer when you're not on the bench. Because I think so highly of him.
Yeah.
I think so highly because I think he's a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
And believe me, he's ruled against me a lot of times.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. I care about the fact that he's a wonderful human being, and there are really good judges.
Yes.
There are really good human beings that are prosecutors.
Yeah.
That
I agree.
use discretion in what they do
When they can.
when they can, and I appreciate that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, changing. I know we're coming here towards the end, but I do want to talk about this particular topic. It's not a serious topic, but it's a topic that I think is going to come out a lot more than what we think. We talked about, and you did a really nice video about flock cameras, right? I think what's going to be interesting is to see is what sort of monitoring system, what sort of ways can the government use to track you, Nick? And at some point, and again, we've seen fictional movies of that. There's been some fun movies about that, but this stuff's out there. Flock cameras, face recognition, body cams, smart devices. I mean, are they able to hack into your... Again, we see this as fictional fantasies and fictional information that we see in movies. Mm-hmm. But it's happening. And I think that's starting to scare me. And I don't know if there's going to be any regulations of that anytime soon. Are we going to lose our civil liberties here with surveillance here in the next 5 years? It's a serious topic, but it may be not. It may be sooner than what we think. That technology with drones and everything else.
Well,
it may be coming sooner than what you think, my friend.
Well, a lot of these AI companies seem to be cozying up with the government too, getting all these big contracts. So that kind of scares me.
you guys, you're asking the wrong guy because I think it's already here. it is already here. You
Yeah.
know, until and unless you want to get rid of your cell phone,
Yeah.
your electronic devices. One of the guys I love to listen to, John Kiriakou, who's a former CIA agent.
Yeah.
He's on a lot of the podcasts, and he talks about, you know, go your smart TV. They're going to turn. They want to turn on the camera and listen. If you're in an automobile, if they want to take control of your car, they'll drive you off the road. They can do that. But as it relates to our civil liberties, I remember a time when the people were arguing. Lawyers were making arguments. Lawyers were filing motions to suppress evidence when police officers tried to secure phone records or bank records. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. You can't come get my bank records. You need to have a search warrant. You need to have probable cause. You need to do these things. And ultimately, the court said, nah, you can just get a subpoena. It's not really private.
Yeah.
And, you know, now we don't even think about that. But if I can go back in my mind and I can think about when I was starting off as a lawyer, that was like, whoa, wait a minute. These guys are now able to look at my personal records. Well, that's gone. And we don't even think about that. So we don't even, in our minds, we've been conditioned now not to even think that my cell phone records are private, or my banking records are private, or my digital footprint. There's no privacy. And, you know,
Jeez, that sounds a little gloomy, my man. Jeez.
well, you know,
What if I just moved to a deserted island? Forget about my cell phone.
My good friend Tony, says, you know what? I'm going to go through TSA. You're going to put a video out. I'm not going to let him take a picture of me.
I don't.
I know. And then I say,
but I'm the only one that says no.
yeah, but then I say, and I didn't say this to you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say it now. Brother, they already got your picture.
I don't care. Guess what? It's like that one time they didn't get mine. A million times before they got it, but that one time, I'll one up on you. You've traveled to Florida before, right?
Yeah.
And so Florida's got these little neat things where they're collecting these tolls, and right before you get to the tolls, there's a sign going, just drive by, we'll send you the invoice, right? Mm-hmm. So you go on vacation, you're driving, and the tolls are like taking photos of you, right? And one time, just to be funny, and I'm like, there's the camera, just like I'm going on a roller coaster, and I see the camera, and I'm like looking out the window, and I'm like smiling, right? 3 months later, I get the toll bill, and it's got me in my picture smiling.
Yeah.
So you're
you know, we laugh about it.
Yeah. It's sad though.
It's sad, and I'll tell you. I think about, you know, and this is what I mean about being conditioned.
Yeah.
I don't see myself at my age being comfortable to get in a car that's driving by itself.
You will never get in a Tesla that's driving by itself.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe, but here's what I can tell you: like my children might feel a little bit more comfortable with that because they're used to it. They're conditioned to it. We're conditioned now to go and look in the camera when they scan at TSA. We're conditioned to know that the flock cameras are up, whether we know it or not. We're conditioned to now believe that nothing that we do is private.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, yeah, so what? You know, like, so what? What if you're not doing anything wrong? But what's next?
Yeah.
You know, oh, by the way, hey, Tony, yeah, knock on your door. Hey, we know you're AB negative. We need some blood from you. Or, hey, by the way, we think you're a kidney donor. How do you know that? Well, your medical records are everywhere.
It's going to get to a point where we're not going to have a whole lot. Again, maybe not my lifetime, but I think it's getting there, Nick.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a wrap, my man.
That's great stuff, man. And it's great. And again, as we move forward with this, just want to make sure everybody, you know, if you've got topics you want us to talk about, nothing's off the table. Let us know.
Hit us up.
Hit us up. Thank you.
It's a wrap.